Hey everyone, happy Monday and welcome to Monday Mindset Reboot. My name is Eileen Carlucci and I am the author of the upcoming book, Your New Life Starts Now, which is due out this April. I am a speaker. I am a lifestyle design coach for women over 40 and beyond, and I'm a stylist. And every week on every Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I am here on my personal page. And I just started this a few weeks back. Every Wednesday, I interview fabulous female entrepreneurs making their mark in the world on Wednesday. And I decided to add this fun Monday mindset reboot to really kick off the week. So let me just first make sure. Looks like I'm on. Here I go. And, every week is a different topic. And, this I'm actually in a section in my book, a chapter in my book. It's the relationships chapter. My book is about creating your most first class and fabulous life over 40 and beyond in midlife. Like, it's really a midlife reinvention book. And I do have a section about divorce. And as I'm writing, I said, I'm going to bring this topic up on my mindset reboot. And I know not everyone is divorced. You might have been divorced, but everyone has been affected by divorce in some way. Some of us have had parents that have been divorced, or we've had friends, family, siblings. We can all kind of relate, but sometimes we don't always get, if you haven't been through one yourself, get that experience of having a divorce. So, I've been through both. I've been through the very long marriage. I was married about 24 years, in a relationship for close to 30, because with dating, and from 22 to 50. So I was in that long relationship. People used to say, wow, you just don't see this anymore. And people give up and da, da, da. And I really thought I was going to be married forever. Right. So, and then I found myself, now I am divorced. And, sometimes I hear people say that same thing. And I realize they don't always understand what divorce is like, how you can really thrive after divorce. And it is a process. It doesn't happen most times. It doesn't happen right away. So that's what I want to share. There's a few things I want to share. I want to share about, there's a lot of untruths and myths about divorce. So I'm going to share some of those. Also was going to share a little bit how to finalize your past. Like, if you're having trouble moving past divorce, maybe not knowing how to navigate a fresh start. I'm going to offer some tips, how to just create that best life, and really how to, there's different people have different relationships with their former spouses, their former in-laws, their former families, and the different things you can do to keep a relationship amicable and friendly. So I really wanted to touch on a lot of things tonight. So I hope you enjoy the topic. And I see a couple people watching. I think I see Suzanne. Hey, Suzanne. I don't know who else is joining. You can't always see who's joining in. So if I don't say hello, my apologies. I am going to check the comments, but sometimes you just can't see until after, but I always respond after. But I really thank you for joining in tonight, and we're going to get started. So, like I said, I was married for a very long time. I got divorced, and around that same time, I had my first going off to college. I lost my dad, not too long after my second went to college. I lost my dog. I went back into the workforce, and I seriously was a mess for a while. I felt like I had totally lost my identity, after being in such a long-term marriage, and like, this is who I was in the world. And now who am I? Right. So I really took a lot of time. I decided I'm going to invest in myself. I have a golden opportunity to create this whole new life and this whole second act and second chapter, and really just thrive after divorce instead of, thinking this is a bad thing. I just created a whole new life, which led me to start my business, which I can't even tell you what a true honor it has been, because I've helped a lot of women through the divorce process, after the divorce process, create a whole new life. And, I've helped women who are empty nesters. I've been through the empty nest, like, what do I do now? have career switches, feel that, women that want to start a business and like, maybe I'm too old to do this. Is it a good financial decision? Just women in those midlife transitions, right? We're kind of sandwiched between aging parents and our parents passing away and kids leaving the nest. And what do I do now? So I've been truly so honored and thrilled to be able to help women at this stage. And I cannot wait for the book to come out. But let's get on to the topic, right? So and if you have heard some of these, please chime in. But I'm going to share, this is kind of interesting because I've been doing some research for my book about divorce, right? Like I know what I know and what I've coached people on, but there's, lots of different things going on. So this section is about, the untruths about divorce. So I want to see if you could maybe, if you want to share some, untruths, okay? So there, some of the reasons, I will tell you why some of the reasons people get divorced in the first place. And this is when I've done a lot of research. There's abuse, infidelity, lack of communication, addiction, lack of intimacy, unwilling to look at the marriage, right? Like unwilling to work on it. There's mental or physical disability, family conflicts with in-laws, money, that's always a big one. So we kind of know, that, and they say society, 50% of divorce marriages will end in divorce. I don't know how true those facts are, but people say, well, how come people now divorce? Years ago, they didn't. Well, you think about it, years ago, just really in this past, since the 1950s, we've been flying. A lot of people were really, even though they, would go on ships and go around the world, were really true to their, where they lived, right? We very culturally in their society, women didn't work. It was a whole different world then. In the 1970s, we had the explosion of self-development, self-improvement, and it hasn't stopped with like really living your best life, thriving in your life, not just surviving. And many people just, if they're not happy and they're not, and they keep trying to make something work that's not working, people still have a hard time accepting that, they chose the divorce, right? So let me, and then now let's talk a little bit about the untruths, what society, and it's just something to really think about. So I thought I would share these. I put them in my book and I thought it was kind of interesting. So, many times people, when they think of divorce, two people sit down at a table and this just isn't going to work anymore. And then it's, they're just taking the easy way out. That very rarely happens. Most of the time it's, problems that have been happening, all those things that I mentioned, those reasons, it's, and it's sometimes very rarely do people just sit down and say, you know what, this isn't working. And I know that's a common myth, but it's very rarely it does that happen. It takes two to tango. So like most times, again, people think two people say just isn't working. If one person wants out, they made a decision really for both of them. Like the marriage you entered as together, you leave separately, right? So that's another, untruth. People think it does take two people, and it doesn't. Divorce makes you incredibly sad. Yeah, in the beginning. I will tell you, I was incredibly sad because you're grieving, the loss of your family, you're grieving the loss of a spouse, maybe the in-laws. But you can be really happy too, because a lot of times in a divorce, people are really unhappy. And then when they create their new life, they're really happy again, and eventually find another partner that they're, more compatible with and have more in common with. So it doesn't make you sad forever, just, maybe in the beginning, right? And some people do leave a divorce more ready, like they've made their mind up and they're kind of relieved at the get-go. Every divorce is different. So that's the other myth. They're all the same. Every divorce ends differently. Even like going through divorce process, because what happens in divorce, some people go through attorneys, some go through mediators. Some people build a team where you have a financial planner, you have a mediator, you have a coach. You really get your support during, because it's a lot. But a lot of times people will give you advice, so you're talking to a lot of people. It's very overwhelming while you're going through it, because if you haven't been divorced, this is how I explain how I felt. Not everybody has this, but during the pandemic, remember how you felt when we first went on lockdown? You had no idea how you feel, like you lost your life. Everything changed in an instant. And you don't know when this thing was going to end, right? And here we are 2 years later, but it's that kind of feeling where your whole life changes. You feel sick to your stomach. You're kind of, and like, what's next, right? So that's, the feeling that I had. A lot of people, I've, coached a lot of people that have been in that similar situation. It can be very, very painful. And especially it's a really long marriage, because you spent so many years of your life, and that's, it kind of becomes your identity, right? Your whole family. And so anyway, so that's another, another one of the myths here was that, all divorces are the same. They are not. And, I always say to people in any divorce, make sure to get the right support you need. If you're using a mediator, get your attorney on the side, your financial planner. The more educated you are, go to workshops, divorce workshops, read books, the better you'll be, because you're making decisions, like big financial decisions, or you're splitting assets and houses, and the emotions of kids, who's getting the children, the dog, can be really overwhelming. And you really want to make sure that you know what you're doing, because you're making huge decisions, and you don't just make rash emotional decisions. So that's my advice. And then there's this other one. I remember reading this myself. It takes 1 year for every 4 years of marriage to get over your divorce. So I know that's a myth. It's not the truth, but I believed it when I read it. So I was like, oh, so that's when I'll start feeling better, right? But I just wanted to say, before I get into the thriving after divorce, because I just wanted to share, why marriages end. Like, people wonder, well, why do marriages end? Why does there such a big divorce rate? The actual myths, about divorce, and to make sure, if you are getting a divorce, to really do your homework. And I also suggest, really trying to, and I know, everybody has a different situation, and there's a lot of anger and resentment sometimes, but trying to get along, right? Especially if you have children with former exes, with their families. And yes, some people can be very amicable, and they can do this during the divorce process. Sometimes it takes them years. It depends, again, what's happened in the divorce. Some people just split if there's no kids. I don't really care if I ever see this person again. Some people are great co-parents, but may take a while. But if you can, whatever you can do, counseling or whatever, if you have children, for the sake of the kids, it would be so helpful if you could be friendly, right? And be a team, because the marriage is over. It's done. And once you have everything finalized, you really got to think about the kids, right? And really kind of getting, the work you need to do on yourself to get your new life started, because we don't know how much time we have on this planet, right? So we don't want to spend too much time with resentment and anger, and I know there's a grieving process, but you want to, not fester too long on it, right? So, and really commit to thinking about the kids, and it's how good it would be for them to, no matter what that person did to you, sometimes you just have to move past it, right? So now I'm going to get into, you're recently divorced. You're kind of like, all right, what do I do now? Where do I go? How do I even start my life over again? So I'm going to share some of the things that I did. And some little tips that I've learned along the way as I've been coaching. And, I've read a ton about divorce over these years, just because I've had a lot of clients, and this is one of the things that I do. I think you really got to spend the time to work through your emotions, right? Like, just really feel it. Like, and like I said, invest in yourself, hire a coach, go to a counselor. I remember I went to a counselor in the beginning when I was going through my emotions, because I felt like I was driving my friends and family nuts, because I didn't know what to do. It's just because my dad was really sick. And I just didn't even know where to start, when you're going through, separating everything. And so I really suggest either getting a counselor. Eventually I got a coach after I got divorced, and it was amazing, right? Just having a professional really guide you through the next phase of life is incredible. Okay, so again, like I said, a coach, therapist, whatever you need, I would get, and if you have great friends, that's great, but you just want to make sure that you're getting the support and it's not just like a complaining fest and they're agreeing with you. You really want to be able to move forward, get skills to move forward. It's also a really great opportunity to rediscover like who you used to be, right? Because sometimes you get into being a couple and you're like, well, who am I by myself, right? And that's where you come into, you rediscover who you used to be, and you get to create a new you, right? So you get to be a new person. It's like a second act, second chapter that you get to design yourself, right? So that's why my business is Redesign Your Life Coach. That's what I did. I actually went through every area of my life. And I said, how do I want each area to look? How do I want my wardrobe to look? How do I want my house to look? How do I want my social life? What do I want that to look like? My career. And that's when I started my business. And I started my business. I had honestly no business experience. I just jumped in, and I think back, boy, was I naive back then, but it was amazing too. And, I'm here, I am in my 4th year, and I haven't stopped, and I'm glad I did it. New business. And commit to, a healthy lifestyle. So sometimes you're worn out mentally, physically. So really just getting out and walking and eating good food and drinking your water and trying to sleep. And if you have to cry, right? Go take a nice bath, but just, try to pamper yourself, be good to yourself, because it's, they say divorce is the second, out of the traumas, you like death and then divorce and moving or career loss. But you really want to be good to yourself and take some time to pamper yourself. Really focus on self-care, right? Maybe go get a massage or a facial, or, do meditation, journal, make yourself, so I always say, get out your pretty china, buy yourself flowers. Just that really makes you feel good, just to do those really nice things. Have a afternoon tea time every day. The next tip, I have a few more. Dream big. So now you have this opportunity, right? I mean, look at it. Sometimes, like out of my divorce, I created a business where I help women in midlife. Like maybe you want to do the same thing, right? I'm writing a book. I never thought I'd write a book ever. And here I'm doing it. So I had a big dream and I made it happen, right? So just think about all your dreams, write them down on paper. Like now all the world's my oyster. I have this great opportunity to really not just dream it, but live out my epic dreams. I also wanted to say, create new holiday traditions. So you had, instead of being sad, maybe I know sometimes the first holiday, when a family breaks apart, but you can create new traditions. If you're friendly with your ex, you can have them over. You can just create new, different friends, different relatives, like however you used to do Christmas or Easter, do it a little differently, or go out to dinner, right? So you kind of create your new family traditions, just spice it up, right? Enjoy and create some new things. Now, this is a suggestion. Not everybody has to do this, but I say sell your bedroom set if it hasn't been sold already. I remember I went to this really beautiful discount furniture store and bought this beautiful, I still have it. It's a beautiful white fabric bed. And I sold all my furniture. So I think it's really nice to create, a bedroom for you and make it beautiful and nice and for your next life, right? So, and you always make sure I tell everyone, like during this step, create your support system, right? So if you're just adjusting, if you're still kids are still home, do you have grandparents around to help? Do you have, just create some teamwork in there? Do you have, someone to walk the dog, or, someone to help you with errands or chores or handiwork around the house, like, or friends that could help. Because it does take a lot, especially if your kids are still home, to create a whole new life, especially if you've moved, and it's just a lot to think about, right? So you want to make sure you have people that can help you. And what else did I have? Oh, yes. And the last thing I was just going to say is, like, really try to get, finalize your past, because I think sometimes we, and I'm not saying all divorced people do this, but sometimes people, they go on and on and on. And I know it's a lot of pain. That's why I say get the help and try to finalize whatever pain you have, because again, life is not a dress rehearsal. If you have children, you just want to have peace, right? It's like the marriage didn't work and that's it. So you can still be happy, right? That myth of you have to be sad all the time is not the truth. There's a lot of people that are still married, and they were married for a very long time, that are very unhappy. So, and there's a lot of people, believe me, I'm a believer in marriage, that are very happy too. So I'm a total believer in marriage, but I'm just saying, just because you're divorced, you can be super happy and just live your most fabulous life, right? Thrive after divorce. And I was actually going to write my book about that subject. And then and this was in 2020, when I first wrote my book, I was writing the book. And then in 2022, when I saw everyone start to kind of leave their jobs and like really look at life differently, like everyone's kind of redesigning their life now, that's when I changed it to, kind of the midlife reinvention theme, and creating this new first class and fabulous lifestyle. So I'm so excited, but I do have this section in my book, and I wanted to share it with you today. So I hope you found some value. I see a few people on. Let me just see if there's any comments. I hope you found some value in the, in my live today. I always love to have a great discussion on Mondays to get your week started. And if you or anyone is, struggling with a divorce process or after, reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation with you and see how I can help you. It would be a true honor, really, because I know it's a very hard thing to do and to get through. And I've been through it myself, and I am doing so well now. And I made a career out of helping women now live their best life. So anyway, so I hope everyone enjoyed, and you have a super week ahead, and make it a good one, and enjoy. And I'll be back here on Wednesday with my guest of the week. I'll be sharing on that tomorrow for Conversations with Eileen. All right, everybody, have a great night and a great week ahead. Take care. Bye.